Hello everyone, Juxtaposition here. Today's video will be entitled Jack Black and the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Alright, so I want to talk about Jack Black. This is a story about the here and now. You know, most of my videos have to do with going back in the past and reviewing mysterious murders and or unresolved homicides. But in today's video, we're going to talk about a person who is alive and well and flourishing in the military intelligence community known as Hollywood. Hollywood films. Now, there are homicides and murders unresolved in the Jack Black story, of course. And I'm just touching the surface. You know, all my videos, I generally touch the surface, except for the Sharon Tate and Lino LaBianca and Abigail Folger case. I really dug as deep as you can possibly go in those cases. I also went extremely deep in the William Egan Colby videos that I did a year ago. And however, you know, most of his life is a high classified secret. So I went as far as I could. It's still shallow compared to the depth that was the Office of Special Services, Military Intelligence, CI Director, Deputy Director in charge of the Phoenix Program, and who served in Rome, Italy, whilst Propaganda Due and the Bank of Vatican and the Operation Gladio of NATO troops was going on, committing acts of terrorism throughout continental Europe. So I think I went as deep as anyone has ever gone on William Colby, a former CIA director. I went deeper than anyone has ever gone on the Sharon Tate and her parents, Doris, who pimped her out in beauty pageants, and her father, who was a colonel in the United States Army stationed at both Verona, Italy, at a NATO base, and at Richland, Washington at an Army base, and again in Houston, Texas way at another Army base, and then of course at Fort MacArthur, Port of Los Angeles, Terminal Island, Long Beach, and then of course San Francisco, Presidio. And I delved into the Tates as deep as anyone has ever gone. And I connected dots that have never been connected in mass media because they're not supposed to be. It's concealed. NATO crimes are presumed to not exist. The My Lai massacre wasn't supposed to be known. Anyway, let me just review here. So Jack Black, not his real name, right? His name is Thomas Jacob Black. See, so his middle name is Jacob. He's Jewish. He's Jewish because his mother is Jewish. Judith Love Cohen, that's his mother. Judith Cohen. She was born in Brooklyn. And the story of Thomas Jacob Black is really to do with Judith Cohen from Brooklyn, New York. You know, who else do we know? What other Jewish women do we know from Brooklyn, New York? Well, we have Carol Klein, that you know as Carol King. She was born in Brooklyn, New York, and she's Jewish, and she's in the entertainment Hollywood business. We have some men from Brooklyn. Of course, we have Alan Dershowitz, who graduated from the Yale Law School and is an embarrassment, you know, for any school associated with him. We have Louis Jolion West, who became a medical doctor, psychiatrist, who killed a 3,000-pound elephant at the Oklahoma City Zoo, and was involved with getting a United States Air Force soldier, airman, convicted of murder and sentenced to the gas chamber. And then he came out to work with Abigail Folger's mother in San Francisco, Haight-Ashbury. Then he became the department head of psychology for UCLA, University of California, Los Angeles. That comes into the Jack Black story, as well as his mother, Judith Cohen, who attended both USC and UCLA. All right, so Thomas, I like to call them by their real names, but I guess I should just use their popular names. Jack Black was born on August 28, 1969. He is known as an American actor, a comedian, and a musician. And He even has a band where he plays the lead vocalist called the Tenacious D. It was formed in 1994 with his longtime friend Kyle Gass. Okay, and since 2018, Jack Black operates a YouTube channel called Jabalinsky Games. Now, you know, YouTube is part of Google, which is Jewish managed, Jewish funded, and Jewish banked. Kleiner Perkins being the number one funder of YouTube. So Jack Black is Jewish, so that's consistent with Google and YouTube. Also, he's not being deleted, so that's consistent with military intelligence. I can assure you, I get deleted. So anyway, what I wanted to tell you is that Jack Black, his film roles include High Fidelity, Shallow Hal, you may remember that. That was a funny film. Orange County, School of Rock in 2003, Envy, King Kong, The Holiday, Gulliver's Travels, Bernie, The House with a Clock on Its Walls. All right. And he's also known for DreamWorks Animation Kung Fu Panda franchise and the Super Mario Brothers movie. He also appears in video games for children known as Brutal Legend, Broken Age, and Psychonauts 2. I have absolutely no idea what those are since I don't play video games, which are mind control data collections procedures, much as the same as the PCR test is. Thomas Jacob Black was born in Santa Monica, California, again in August 1969, August 28th. He's the son of a satellite engineering family. Thomas William Black was his father. I don't think he's Jewish. He is a satellite engineer, which means he has a high security clearance. His mother, Judith Love Cohen, is also a satellite engineer. Isn't that just ducky? He was raised in Hermosa Beach, which is right next to Mar Vista, which is CIA concentration. This is where Hughes Space and Communications Satellite Company is located. I don't know if these two work there. This is where TRW has facilities near Paso Robles, Rancho Palos Verdes, I should say. This is where, you know, the military had Fort MacArthur. This is where Union Carbide, owner of the property, leaseholder of the property that Jim Jones built a prisoner dilemma game on in British Guiana. So what I'm saying is that Jack Black was raised in a military complex, surrounded by Hughes military, TRW, the Hubble Space Telescope, NASA subsidiaries, and Silicon Beach, which is known as Mar Vista, which is adjacent to Marina del Rey. Anyway, his mother worked on what's called the Minuteman Nuclear Missile Guidance System. She also worked on the Apollo Lunar Module Guidance System program. I don't think that should have been too complicated since the module never got out of a hangar at Norton Air Force Base out in San Bernardino. So I'm not sure that's more of a cover story than an actual story of a guidance system for a vehicle that never left the Earth. Anyway, she also worked on the Hubble Space Telescope. She was also a scientific writer, his mother, Judith. Okay, so Jack Black has 3 older siblings. His mother has been married 3 times. So let me just turn my attention now to his mother, Judith, because really this is the core of the story. She was born August 16th, 1933 in Brooklyn, New York. She died in Culver City. You know, that's where Sharon Tate signed her first deal with the devil, in the MGM Metro Goldwyn Mayer building in Culver City. It's now known as the Sony building, owned by Amazon. And this is where Dorothy Stratton was murdered. This is where John Wayne, Sissy Boy John Wayne, the boy for Wild Bill Donovan, he did a lot of propaganda films in Culver City. Is where Ronald Reagan built his CIA OSS career in Culver City. Ronald Reagan, Army Airborne Ronald Reagan, who worked as an actor, not as a parachute jumper, but as a propaganda actor in Culver City for Hollywood and the military. Anyway, Judith was She died in Culver City. She was buried in Eden Memorial Park Cemetery, which is a Jewish cemetery. Um, she has three last names because she had three different husbands. She originally, her maiden name is Cohen, right? Then she married a fellow by the name of Siegel. I've got his name here somewhere. Anyway, so then she became Judith Love Siegel. Then she became Judith Love Black to the satellite engineer. Then she divorced him and married Katz, and she became Judith Love Katz. So 2 out of the 3 husbands are Jewish. And I wonder if her Siegel husband was related to Ben Bugsy Siegel, spelled the same way, Siegel. Ben Bugsy Siegel was from Lower East Side Manhattan, and I'm not sure where Judith Cohen's first husband's from, but somewhere in the Brooklyn to Manhattan area, I would assume. Judith Cohen's engineering career commenced in 1952. She worked as a junior engineer for the North American Aviation Company. She graduated from USC. That's where Judge Charles Older graduated, the guy that was a flying tiger and flew for Republic of China, shooting down Japanese planes before Pearl Harbor. He's already killing Japanese people under the flag of China, working for an OSS company, which I believe was some stupid name, some volunteer pilot program. Anyway, Judith went on to work, of course, for TRW, which was later bought by Northrop Grumman. Northrop in 2002. Judith stayed with the company until her retirement in 1990. Her engineering work included work on the Minuteman missile, the Abort Guidance System AGS, and the Apollo lunar module. And she played, or her system played an important role in the return of the Apollo 13. Poppycock on that. That was a Hollywood scripted fake crisis, okay? So it's more to do with the directors and the behind the camera. They had a lot more to do with the safe return of the fake Apollo 13 project. I love how they weave in these false narratives, evidence that's not in that doesn't exist. There's no such thing as Apollo 13 except in your brain. Anyway, Judith Cohen married fellow engineer Bernard Siegel. So a guy was an engineer. And she met him when she was a freshman at engineering school at Brooklyn College, which I believe she had a scholarship. They had 3 children. One of whom, Neil Siegel, has become an engineer himself, Howard Siegel and Rachel Siegel. The couple then divorced in the 1960s. They won't give you a date. After she divorced Bernard Siegel, she quickly married Thomas William Black, who converted to Judaism in 1969. Wow, just like Elizabeth Taylor did, just like Marilyn Monroe did, just like Madonna did. Madonna, Material Girl, she converted to Judaism. Anyway, so did Judith Cohen's second husband. He converted to Judaism. He wasn't Jewish, but he converted. They had a son, who is Jack Black. All right. So Jack Black, again, born immediately upon their wedding. Well, their wedding was, they won't give you a date, sometime after her divorce in the mid-60s. Jack Black came along in 1969 in August, and they then divorced when Jack Black was, 8, 9, 10 years old. They were married 10 years or so, and it's unclear the date, sometime in the 1970s. Jack Black would have been, somewhere between age 6 and age 9. And then during the 1980s, Judith Cohen married David A. Katz, and they were married then 35 years up until the time of Judith Cohen's death after a short battle of cancer. They had a son who died of AIDS in 1991. Isn't that something? So just want to be clear here about Judith Cohen did die on July 25th, 2016 after a battle with cancer. Short battle with cancer. All right. That's Judith. That explains the credentials. This makes that Jack Black has through his mother. This is not any different than John Phillips of the Mamas and Papas. This isn't any different than Stephen Stills and David Crosby. This is not any different than Sharon Tate. Sharon Tate would never have been in the Hollywood business of television and film were it not for the fact that her father was a colonel in the United States Army. It's the same story with Stephen Stills and David Crosby. It's the same story with Jack Black. He wouldn't be in the entertainment industry if his mother wasn't a Jewish engineer in the military-industrial complex in Culver City and Hermosa Beach, Mar Vista, San Pedro area. You see what I'm saying here? Abigail Folger never would have been a private banker for the CIA were it not for her mother being a private banker in San Francisco, Haight-Ashbury, working with Timothy Leary and Bill Graham and Hunter S. Thompson and Jim Jones and Ken Kesey and David Smith and Roger Smith and all the nefarious characters in San Francisco, which would include the politicians like Diane Goldman Feinstein. It would include George Moscone and Joe Alioto and Willie Brown, who was Camilla Harris's sugar daddy. Our vice president had a sugar daddy by the name of Willie Brown. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. All right, so Jack Black's career was bestowed upon him because of Judith Love Cohen from Brooklyn, New York. I tell you what, man, it's just remarkable. Everything that goes on in California emanates from Manhattan, New York, the Bronx, Brooklyn, and Long Island. I mean, the private bankers come from New Rochelle and White Plains and Mount Vernon. Doug Leone comes from Mount Vernon. Tom Perkins comes from White Plains, New York. Jerome Kohlberg comes from New Rochelle, New York. Don Valentine comes from the Bronx. Louis Jolian West comes from Brooklyn. Judith Love Cohen comes from Brooklyn. Carole King comes from Brooklyn. I mean, I can go on and on. It's a hugely long list. But they all come out to California, either to San Francisco, Sand Hill Road, Stanford University, University of California, Berkeley, UCLA, USC, Hollywood. They're all over Hollywood. Every single company in Hollywood was founded from a New York Jewish-based company. Every single one. There are no exceptions at all. None. That includes the porn industry, too. That includes the pornography industry of San Fernando Valley. They do have non-Jews working in there, like Jose Menendez and, Mel Gibson, a few others. But for the most part, it's a Jewish family-run, operation. So that's how that goes. So then the next thing I wanted to tell you about is that the Red Hot Chili Peppers come into this story because, of course, I always like to know where these people live, right? So initially, when Jack Black's career began, which we're saying that his career began in 1982 when he received his first acting job in a television commercial at age 13 for the video game Pitfall. Anyway, by the year 2001, Jack Black was bestowed provisional housing in Beechwood Canyon, which is off Beechwood Drive. And it appears that Jack Black was given a 3,000 square foot home, 4 bedrooms, and on Bilden Drive near Beechwood Drive, North Beechwood Drive. It's below the Hollywood sign. It's just below the Hollywood sign. It's below the Hollywood sign and a little bit to the east. It's not directly below. It's below and to the east. Just a smidge. Anyway, so he lived in that home for 6 years, and then he allegedly sold it, which I don't believe. I believe that home belongs to the military-industrial complex. And I don't have an address on the exact home, but I can get you within half a block of the house. It's right off North Beechwood Drive on Bilden Drive. And he lived there 6 years. It was sold for $1.462 million, $1.5 million. I don't believe that. It would probably be sold to another CIA, straw company. He then moved down the hill to Los Feliz Boulevard. He moved to 4900 Los Feliz Boulevard. Now that's a famous name, people, because it's in front of Griffith Park, and it's also the road that you would take to visit the Lena LaBianca and Rosemary LaBianca murder scene. Jack Black's new home, which is 4900 Los Feliz Boulevard, he took over from the bass player from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, who goes by the name of Flea. Flea, not his real name. So Flea moves out and Jack Black moves in. Now that home appears to be more like 8,000 square feet. It has no view. It's not high up on the hill. It's on a low mound. It is completely and utterly surrounded by staging houses and a cul-de-sac. It is a kill box house. 4900 Los Feliz Boulevard is a kill box house. It is bordered by North Edgemont Street and a dangerously devilish cul-de-sac that is called Ambrose Avenue. And specifically 4801 Ambrose Avenue backs right up to the Jack Black swimming pool. And if you were staging a murder, kind of like Sharon Tate's murder at Cielo, you'd use 10048 Cielo Drive and you'd use 10100 Sunbrook Drive. Well, Ambrose Avenue 4801 meets that description. You'd also use 2060 North Edgemont Street and 2050 North Edgemont Street. Those two back up to the swimming pool and house for Jack Black. You might use a couple of other staging homes. He's 360 degrees surrounded, just like Lena LaBianca was. Lena LaBianca was 1.5 miles away from this resident. Lena LaBianca's wife, Rosemary, her daughter, Suzanne, what was her name? Suzanne, yes, it's so confusing because her name is not LaBianca. Oh my God. So, LaBarge, Susan LaBarge, but she went by Struthers. See, because Rosemary LaBianca had three husbands. Three. LaBarge, Struthers, and LaBianca. She had a daughter, Susan, from the first baby daddy, whose name was LaBarge. Anyway, Susan LaBarge had a fiance named Joe Dugan. Not Joe Rogan, but Joe Dugan. Joe Rogan's another CIA operative, but we're not going to discuss Joe Rogan. We're talking about Joe Dugan. Joe Dugan was a soldier in the Straight Satan's Motorcycle Club, which distributed CIA drugs. Lena LaBianca was their private banker. You should know that Susan LaBarge lived in what was featured on television as the Melrose Place apartment building, number 4, unit number 4, like Patricia Hearst number 4 in Berkeley, where she was allegedly kidnapped. Apartment number 4. Near her grandmother's, her great-grandmother's anthropology museum. Anyway, so Susan LaBarge lived half a mile from Jack Black's new home. Half a mile. It's a short walk. And she lived on Greenwood Place. And I've got the address, 4616 Greenwood Place. It's half a mile from Jack Black's house. It is then a 1 mile to the murder scene for Leno and Rosemary LaBianca. Jack Black is therefore 1.5 miles away from the murder scene. Jack Black is 1.3 miles away from where Leno LaBianca and Rosemary lived in the Walt Disney Mansion at 4053 Woking Way. It's across Los Feliz Boulevard from Jack Black and up the hill below the Griffith Park Observatory. It's a view property, 6,188 square feet. So don't think that Lena LaBianca was living in a little 1,500 square foot home that his mother owned on Waverly Drive. He was lured to that home because he was transitioning to San Diego, where he was buying a horse farm, and the deal hadn't closed yet. So he moved out of the Walt Disney Mansion, and he was in the murder house for the summer. until he was going to reposition to Vista, California, which is near the Pendleton United States Marine Base. That's where the horse farm was. Okay, so I guess my point is, why did the Red Hot Chili Peppers have use to 4900 Los Feliz Boulevard? But they've been a band that's been around since 1982. They're a 40-year-old band, so they're used to promote COVID policies. They're used to promote voting. They promoted the Jewish candidate for president. What was his name? Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders. Red Hot Chili Pepper endorsed Bernie Sanders. So it's a social engineering band, like they all are. The Mamas and the Papas, Cass Elliot, she promoted voting on Midnight Express television show. They use these celebrities to promote things, like Tim Robbins. Tim Robbins knows Jack Black. He attended UCLA. Jack Black attended UCLA, did not graduate. He did not graduate from any university. He dropped out. So that's that. The Red Hot Chili Peppers are, of course, associated with Warner Brothers and EMI, which is CBS and RCA. But you should know that the Red Hot Chili Peppers had virtually all their albums were produced by the Columbia Records president, who they hired to do that. Well, I don't know that they hired. I don't think they hired anybody. I think he was assigned to them. Rick Rubin produced almost every single Red Hot Chili Pepper album since 1991. Okay? That's a Jewish fellow by the name of Rick Rubin, and he was the co-president of Columbia Records. What a surprise. Columbia Records, that brought you Chicago, the big thing. Before that, they brought you Janis Joplin. Before that, they brought you Doris Day and Terry Melcher. They brought you Paul Revere and the Raiders. They brought you Rosemary Clooney. They brought you everybody. So they brought you the Red Hot Chili Peppers, effectively. So it doesn't really matter if you say it's Warner Brothers or if you say it's EMI. It's CBS, Masonic Evil Eye, controls the Red Hot Chili Peppers. And they assigned housing on Los Feliz Boulevard, which is now occupied by Jack Black. All right, so what does this all mean? Well, I wanted to tell you that I had a client who was a couple years younger than myself, and he was dating Margaret Lesher. You may not remember Margaret Lesher. She was married to a newspaper magnate in Contra Costa County who sold his empire for $365 million in 1993. Anyway, so he then died. He sells his empire and he dies. Then his second wife, Margaret, goes on to date my client. Now, Margaret was like 67 years old, and my client at the time, I think, was like 33. So she's double his age. She's 67, my client's 33. And they went to a Red Hot Chili Pepper concert. I distinctly remember that. And I was wondering, why would Margaret Lesher, age 67, go to a Red Hot Chili Peppers concert? Wouldn't she rather go to the San Francisco Opera or the Symphony? And they have a Symphony Lesher Center that her husband constructed in Walnut Creek. They have the Lesher Performing Arts Center in Walnut Creek, which is close to Orinda where she lived. I mean, it's 10 minutes away. But no, they went and saw a Red Hot Chili Pepper concert. Then a few years go by, and I learned she gets married. Margaret Lesher remarries, not to my client, but someone else. Then she goes camping in Arizona, and she drowns in a lake under very mysterious circumstances. So my client, 6 degrees of separation, was dating a woman who's 33 years older than himself, and they went to a Red Hot Chili Pepper concert. He doesn't marry her. Another man does. And then she drowns. Margaret Lesher drowns. It's never been resolved who killed her or how she drowned. It's just one of those, oh, I guess she drowned. And it ties into Jack Black. So Jack Black has a swimming pool, and he did a COVID commercial where he wore a mask and told you to be a hero and wear a mask. Be a hero and wear a mask. Then he dies with his fat belly into a swimming pool there at 4900 Los Feliz Boulevard. I don't know if he's making a joke out of the coronavirus, or he's making a joke about being a hero, or if he's making a joke about wearing a mask. But there he is with his beard and he's not wearing a mask, then he puts the mask on, then he dives into his pool. Well, he better watch out, because Jack Black could end up like Margaret Lesher did, drowned in water. Thanks for listening. Have a great day. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.